They lied to you. It is the most expensive lie you have ever been told. From the day you were old enough to understand what money was, they drilled a script into your head. It started in school, it continued when you got your first job, and it is repeated every single day on the financial news networks. The script goes like this: go to school, get a good job, work hard, buy a house and put your money in a 401k. Do that, they said, and you will be safe. Do that, and when you turn 65, you get to walk off into the sunset. You get the golden years. You get the beach house, the golf course, the peace of mind. Look around you. Look at your neighborhood. Look at the guys you work with who are in their 60s. Are they playing golf? Are they sitting on a beach? Or are they tired? Are they stressed? Are they still terrified of losing their job because they can't afford to stop working? The truth is, the American dream of retirement has been stolen. It wasn't an accident, it wasn't bad luck, it was a heist, and the getaway car was the 401k. You need to understand that the system you are relying on to save you was never designed to save you. It was designed to feed Wall Street. To understand this, you have to look back at how things used to be. Ask your grandfather, 2 generations ago, if you gave 30 years of your life to a company. If you built their products, drove their trucks, and managed their floors, they owed you. It was called a pension. The deal was simple. You work, we pay. When you retire, the company sends you a check every month until you die. If the stock market crashed, the company still had to pay you. If the company made bad investments, the company still had to pay you if you lived to be 100 years old. The company still had to pay you. The risk was entirely on them. But in the corporate boardrooms of the 1970s and 80s, the suits did the math. They realized that taking care of workers was expensive. They looked at those pension obligations as a debt. They wanted it off the books. They wanted to boost their stock prices and their own bonuses, and they couldn't do that if they had to keep billions of dollars in reserve for your retirement. So they found a loophole, a little section of the tax code called 401k. It wasn't a grand plan to help the working man. It was originally a tax dodge for high-level executives. But the corporations saw a golden opportunity. They realized they could convince you to trade your guaranteed pension for a glorified savings account. They called it a defined contribution plan. Listen to those words. The only thing defined is what you put in, what you get out. That's not their problem anymore. That's your problem. They successfully shifted the risk from the billionaire corporation to the guy living paycheck to paycheck. Now, if the market crashes right before you retire, you lose, not them. If you make a bad investment choice because you aren't a financial expert, you go broke, not them. If you outlive your savings, you starve. The company washes its hands of you the moment you clock out for the last time. But they couldn't just take the pension away. They had to sell you the alternative. They had to make you feel smart for buying into it. So they created the culture of the stock market. They turned every American worker into a gambler. You are walking into a casino every time you get paid. You are taking the money you need for your family's future and putting it on the roulette table. And who runs the casino? The same banks and hedge funds that have been screwing the working class for decades. Let's talk about the math they hide from you. The math that guarantees you stay on the hamster wheel. First, there are the fees. The vampires in the account. You get your statement and you see the balance. But you rarely see the fees clearly. They are hidden in expense ratios, administrative costs, and marketing fees. They tell you, don't worry, it's only 1%. 1% is tiny. That is the biggest lie in the industry. 1% sounds like pennies, but compound interest works both ways. Over a lifetime of investing, say 30 or 40 years, that little 1% fee can consume up to 1/3 of your total investment returns. Think about that for a second. You take 100% of the risk. You put up 100% of the capital. It is your sweat and blood that earned that money. But the fund manager who takes zero risk gets to keep 30% of the profit just for sitting in an air-conditioned office and moving your money around. If you hired a guy to paint your house, and he told you he was going to keep every 3rd gallon of paint for himself, you'd kick him off your property. But you let Wall Street do it to your life savings every single month. Then there is the issue of control, or rather, the lack of it. When you put money into a 401k, you are locking it in a prison. You cannot touch it until you are 59 and a half years old without paying a massive penalty to the government. What if you want to start a business? What if you want to buy a piece of land? What if you have a medical emergency? Too bad the government says you can't have your own money. They want it trapped in the market. Why? Because your money provides the liquidity for the big players. Your steady, automatic, bi-weekly contributions are the fuel that keeps the stock market inflated. You are the dumb money that buys when the market is high, simply because your paycheck deduction happens automatically. You are forced to buy a menu of funds selected by your company. Often, these funds are full of companies that hate you. You are literally investing in the same corporations that are shipping American jobs overseas, pushing political agendas you disagree with, and shrinking the middle class. You are funding your own destruction. And what about the market itself? They tell you the market always goes up in the long run. Just buy and hold, don't panic. That is easy advice to give when you are rich. It is terrible advice when you have bills to pay. Ask the guy who was planning to retire in 2000 when the dot-com bubble burst. Ask the guy who was 64 years old in 2008 when the housing market collapsed. He saw his life savings cut in half overnight. He didn't have 20 years to wait for the market to recover. He had to cancel his retirement. He had to go back to work. They talk about average returns. They say the market returns 8 or 10% on average. But you don't pay your mortgage with averages, you pay it with real dollars. If the market drops 50%, you need a 100% gain just to get back to where you started. The math is brutal, and the volatility kills your peace of mind. Now, let's look at the tax trap. This is the hook they use to get you in. Lower your taxable income. Now they scream, pay taxes later when you retire. Let's think about this critically. They want you to defer taxes. They want you to agree to pay taxes on your harvest, not your seed. They tell you this is a good idea because they assume that when you retire, you will be in a lower tax bracket. Why do they assume that? Because they assume you will be poor. They assume you will be living on less money than you make today. Is that your goal, to be broke when you're old? And let's look at the government's track record. The United States has trillions of dollars in debt. Unfunded liabilities for Social Security and Medicare are astronomical. Do you honestly believe that tax rates are going to be lower in 20 years? Of course not. Taxes are going to go up. They have to. So you are skipping paying taxes today while rates are historically low to agree to pay taxes in the future, when the government will be desperate for cash. You are walking into a trap. You are partnering with the government on your business, doing all the work, taking all the risk, and letting them decide what percentage of the profit they want to take decades from now. And finally, the silent thief, inflation. They tell you to aim for a number, $1 million, $2 million. They dangle that number in front of you like a carrot on a stick. You scrape, you save, you deny yourself pleasures today for that number tomorrow. But the goalposts are moving. The Federal Reserve prints money out of thin air to bail out banks and fund foreign wars. Every dollar they print steals value from the dollars in your 401k. By the time you reach that $1 million goal, it won't buy you a lifestyle of luxury. It will barely cover your medical bills and property taxes. The cost of energy, food, and housing is skyrocketing. Your account balance might go up, but your purchasing power is going down. You are running on a treadmill that is speeding up, and you are getting exhausted. So what is the result of this 40-year experiment called the 401k? The result is a generation of men who cannot stop working. We have created a system of serfdom disguised as investing. They have conditioned you to be passive, to be a good employee, to hand over your financial power to a stranger in a suit. Set it and forget it, they say. That is the slogan of a victim. They want you to forget it so they can skim the cream off the top while you aren't looking. They want you to be a consumer of financial products, not an owner of real assets. Now, I am not telling you to go burn your money in the backyard. I am telling you to wake up. I am telling you to stop looking at your 401k as a winning lottery ticket. It is not. It is a mediocre savings account with a tax gun pointed at its head. So what do? The verdict is tough, and it requires you to change how you think. First, stop trusting the system to save you. No one is coming. The government isn't coming. The corporation isn't coming. You are on your own. Second, you have to get out of debt. Debt is the chain they use to keep you working. The less money you owe, the less money you need. That is true freedom. Third, look at the free money. If your employer offers a match, take it. That is the only part of the 401k that is actually a good deal. It's an immediate 100% return. Take the match, but think twice before dumping every extra cent you have into that black hole. Fourth, and most importantly, you need to build real wealth. Wealth you can control, wealth you can touch. The wealthy do not rely on 401ks. They own businesses, they own real estate, they own land, they own intellectual property, they own assets that produce cash flow today, not just a promise of cash flow in 30 years. You need to develop skills. You need to own your tools. You need to invest in things that the government cannot inflate away or tax into oblivion quite as easily. A paid-off house is a better retirement plan than a volatile stock portfolio. A side business that brings in an extra $1,000 a month is worth more than a pile of depreciating paper. The hoax is the idea that you can outsource your responsibility. The hoax is thinking that you can sleepwalk your way to wealth. The system is rigged to keep you working until you drop, to keep you chasing the horizon, to keep you feeding the machine. Don't fall for it. Take the match, kill your debt, and start building something you actually own. Because when the music stops, and the markets crash, and the paper wealth burns, only the things you truly own will be left standing. Stop betting on their casino. Start betting on yourself.